Hi, this is Peggy from Raw. So today we have a great guest with us. We have Peter Paul Van Hoeken. So Peter Paul is the CEO of Silver Maple Venture. So Silver Maple Venture owns and operates two entities. It owns and operates FrontFunder, which is an equity crowdfunding platform, and also Deal Square, which is a platform as a service for private markets. So Peter Paul was kind enough to fill in the survey, and he has some great thoughts to share. So really looking to hearing your thoughts, Peter Paul. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And let's start with the first question. So from your perspective, what are the major lasting impacts that COVID-19 will have on the financial services industry?
Right. I think in general for the financial industry, what we've seen is, of course, through the pandemic, we were basically forced to move online pretty much in everything we do, and that's the same for financial services. So financial services is obviously already, let's say, in a transition to use more and more technology, and fintech companies offering those technologies and develop and innovating. But the pandemic has really forced us to expedite that. So I believe that in general, one of the key lasting impacts is that it's definitely has fast-tracked the transition, or the process of getting consumers, companies, any participants in the financial industry more comfortable with transacting online. And I think that will be a key lasting impact in terms of really expediting that process, which is unlikely to sort of bounce back to what it was. Okay. I think we see people say, hey, I've done it now, just like all of us are 4 months ago, many of us never heard of Zoom, perhaps, or Google Hangouts, and now we're all comfortable with it. I think the same process we'll see in financial services, the people getting more comfortable with it to transact online.
Yeah, I agree with you. So do you think that new regulations and policy will appear in the new normal to manage this new reality?
It has to. I think it's in a way a prerequisite, of course. If you transact online in the financial industry, you're typically they're typically contractual transactions. So there needs to be an acknowledgement and understanding on both sides, which is typically captured through a contract, i.e. signatures, etc. So I think one of the things that it will expedite, and I think in the financial industry has been lagging in that respect, is acceptance of electronic signature and ways to confirm, for example, ID verification, transfer of funds. That kind of thing. I think that will definitely be require the regulators or the securities laws as well to accept the fact that we can transact online and that contracts can be confirmed online through electronic signatures, etc. So that is I think the question has already been tabled now. You've seen, for example, securities regulators in Canada made certain exceptions in terms of, for now, exceptions in terms of how transaction can be confirmed and contractually binding. And I think the pandemic and this experience will trigger that policy development to structurally provide a framework for transacting online.
Yeah. And that, to your point, is very geographic specific as well, because the UK is already ahead of us on this point. So I guess they're going to continue with their own regulation while Canada is catching up slowly. The third question I had for you was related to the global financial stability, the global financial order. What do you see happening based on the situation we're living now?
Yeah, I mean that's really a big question, a holistic question. Of course, how is the pandemic and how is this influencing the global financial industry in order? As we've seen, of course, we've seen countries responding in different ways to the pandemic. What's really important, in my opinion, is that the pandemic, of course, this virus is a common threat to human beings and doesn't make a difference between countries, between nationalities, between race, anything. So it's in a way a tremendous opportunity to unite in a way and come up with harmonized ways to address a pandemic, not only now as we are working through it, but also past pandemic, and we don't even know when that exactly will be. We don't even know. There's still perhaps the threat of, once we pass this first wave, that there may be a second wave. So there's an opportunity there, but you've also seen how countries respond differently to addressing the pandemic. We also see how, unfortunately, it is being politicized in a way. So it's certainly causing, let's say, instability, and I think that will have repercussions for the financial markets in a way as well. How it will work out, it's difficult to say, but it's definitely, as we've seen in past as well with these kind of world events, if you like, is that it always sort of distorts an equilibrium, imposes challenge on how to address it. Countries that have to really align and get on the same page and unify in that respect. So yeah, I think it creates uncertainty, that's for sure, and we've seen that, of course, in the public markets. Certainly, it creates uncertainty, but I think it also creates uncertainty in terms of, to your previous question, like, how are regulators responding to, or how are government responding to the fact that the economy is moving online in a sort of a fast track, following a fast track now. How are governments, regulators, coping with that? How are they dealing with the rules that they introduce to keep up with that? And that, of course, you made a comment already. One country will respond differently, also in terms of policy development than another country, and that in itself may also cause kind of uncertainty, perhaps confusion, unclarity, and challenges for companies to navigate those different rules. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, the debt, inflation, and all these things are going to also be knocking at our door, so that's going to be interesting to see. So in terms of resetting the competitive positioning, so what type of organization, or what organization besides maybe yours, will benefit from the crisis?
What we've seen in the financial industry is of course the introduction of technology that's been going on for a while, driven by fintech companies, young companies that are leveraging technology to make the financial industry and services and everything more efficient and bring it online. Those companies that already embrace technology, that are sort of ahead of the game in terms of digitizing it, leveraging the internet, bringing it online, and using other electronic means to facilitate the entire process, are, in my opinion, very well positioned, particularly in these times. And as we've already seen, and we've seen it is indeed with my own company, is we're already transacting everything online. So if there's no other way to transact, then we're of course very well positioned to be part of the solution right now, but obviously also moving forward as this digitization is likely to accelerate. So the companies that embrace technology, that understand that, recognize that the financial industry is changing as well, and not as fast as we've seen in other industries. And I think one of the reasons is that it's a strongly regulated environment. So we have established big players that dominate the market, have licenses to operate, etc. I think it's in that respect, it's not easy to get into the financial industry and compete as a young company. But I think that process will now also accelerate. And so companies that are innovating, using digital technology, understand how that ultimately is about client engagement, but also understand the importance of the fact that you're operating in a financial industry, which ultimately is based on trust and is based on obviously compliance with financial regulations, securities rules, etc. So the companies that understand the technology option, that understand how you can leverage that to engage with customers, and understand how you operate in a regulatory environment, I think those companies are very well positioned to come out as winners in this, and be actually part of the change and the progress in that respect.
Exactly. And where do you see traditional financial institution going in that context?
I think pre-pandemic, and having worked myself in for big financial institutions, which was a long time ago, so I'm very familiar with financial institutions, with big banks, the way they operate. I've seen it from the inside, and seen, of course, how they are completely lagging in terms of adopting new technologies and really innovating, but more holding on to the status quo, and in a way trying to maintain that, right, by making it also more difficult for new entrants. So so traditionally they've been, in my opinion, lagging anyway, which is very challenging or even dangerous for financial institutions, big banks, because ultimately if you don't innovate, if you don't see how ultimately these days it's about who has the customer contact, right? And that's why we see financial services being offered by other industries already. That's why in the supermarket you can get a credit card or a loan, and so because they have the customer contact. So that process of financial institutions providing basically the balance sheet ultimately, which is what a bank also provides, is you run at the risk of sort of being commoditized. So financial institutions sort of move to the back, say, okay, we are providing white label products and solutions and credit and etc. But ultimately, we don't necessarily own the client anymore, and the customers don't really care with who they're banking. Certainly, if they don't have to go in a branch anymore, which is now also due to the pandemic likely to become less and less. So I think I think the pandemic will expedite, and I think will help financial institutions realize that, hey, this is really moving online. The client contact, customer contact is defined differently and may well be owned by others. So how are we going to address that? Because otherwise they're going to head into that commodity trap even faster than they're already
doing. Yeah. That's the burning platform we've been speaking about for the last 10 years. So,
right.
You're at this junction. Are you really going to accelerate, or are you continue to do small changes? So you really need to transform. It's interesting. They're in a place where I hope they would have by themselves gone 5-10 years ago, but I think the pandemic is really putting them in a place where they have no choice. So
Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing for the clients, So changing gears. So the pandemics, what did it change for you? What is your own Peter Paul transformation?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, we're still in the midst of it in a way. It's like just for everyone else, it's been obviously, and as we call it a new normal, but it's interesting because it's been a tremendous, obviously, impact for everyone, including myself, and running a company where all of a sudden you're not in the office anymore, everybody's working remotely. It's kind of it's totally new experience, which obviously brings new challenges with it. But it's one of the things is how it's sort of, I realize how we as humans actually can adapt very quickly and deal with the situation. And I'm looking at myself like after the first few weeks from a business perspective, I realized, okay, this is actually interesting because given the nature of our business, this is an opportunity to be part of the solution. So which is very energizing, all that. So that's that was an interesting process. And working from home, no commuting, more time in the day. I feel like and I think it's no feel, but I think it's a fact that I work more than previously because I save about an hour and a half commuting per day. You start early in the morning. It provides you time to perhaps go for that run or exercise, which otherwise you wouldn't have time for. Right. So it's a new that's a new experience, a positive experience. Challenges. You're obviously at home with your family. It's a new that's in itself a new experience. It's working out pretty well, and I think you always in these situations ultimately putting it in a bigger perspective. We're healthy, my family's healthy, we're working 2 days. It's all good, and we just work through this. Having said that, now after 12 weeks, 13 weeks now, and we have these with my team, these virtual drinks on Friday evening. It's great and it's fun, but we kind of miss to, because it's always scheduled, right? So that spontaneity, like, hey, being in the office, have a quick chat or have a coffee, or that's not on the table right now. And I think me and my team is also kind of ready to, hey, we want to have more, obviously see each other in person. And so I think we're happy to sort of work, be the light of see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's been personally, it's a great, in a way, an experience. You learn a lot from it, and also how you just cope with the situation. Yeah.
It's an interesting time where children really want to go back to school. People really want to go back to work. You're like, oh my God, that's an interesting world where actually everyone is super motivated. Well, thank you, Peter Paul. Any other comments that you want to make on this topic before we close?
No, I think we covered quite a bit, and particularly from the financial industry. I think the key points that I wanted to highlight here with you, I think where they came up. It's really interesting, fascinating times, I would say, and there's an opportunity to take out of this unfortunate event, obviously, to make the best of it as we work through it, but also to learn from it and to make it better. And so I would say for me personally, for my business and for this industry, it is basically a tremendous opportunity, and I hope we grab it and that we come out stronger and make things better and say, well, look, this pandemic of course was really bad and unfortunate, and it was a real it had a tremendous impact, but we also enables us to look at how we're doing things in a different way and make it better, take advantage of that. So I hope that's going to be the takeaway for all of us.
Never waste a good crisis,
That's right.
That's that situation. Well, thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for filling in the survey. So for the people who are watching us, I'll put the link of the survey in the post. So please answer, and also maybe you'll be interviewed. That'd be great. And Peter Paul, thank you again for your insight. That was great.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.